Chapter 8 of Clementine and the Family Meeting. When we got home, my mom was in the kitchen making dinner. I started to give her a hug, but then I realized something. I was hugging the new baby too. I stepped back and hugged her on the side. Then I gave her belly a really small pat. "How's mushroom soup doing today?" I asked. "Mushroom soup," my mom asked. "I'm starting a casserole here. No mushrooms at all." "No, I mean the baby." "The baby has to have a food name," I explained. "You like soup. How about a soup name like mushroom soup? How about that?" My mother laughed. "We haven't thought about names yet," she said, "but when we do, I doubt much mushroom soup will be a top contender." Then she looked down and saw what I was wearing. "Bill, this isn't safe," she said, turning me around. "She's going to trip over these tools. Plus, they're mauling her. That wrench is going to crack her little shin bone." My dad stood up for me. "The people in my family are known for their extra hard shin bones. We all develop extraordinary strength and balance from wearing tool belts as children. So it's actually a plus." I could see my mom was getting ready for a big argument, so I thought it was smart to get out of there while my dad was ahead. "I'm going to go visit Margaret for a minute," I said, and then I ran out. I clunked into the elevator and used my wrench to press the floor number 5 button. I rang the bell with the screwdriver. Mitchell opened the door and his eyes nearly popped out when he saw what I was wearing. "Dudette! Dudette." There's Mitchell. That's Margaret's older brother. "Dudette," he cried. He gave me a high five. "Awesome." Mitchell calls me names like Dudette. Calls me great names like Dudette because he wants to be my boyfriend. So far, I haven't let him be my boyfriend because I don't want one. But if ever I do want one, which I won't, and if it's ever Mitchell, well, it won't be. But because I don't want one. But if I ever do want one, which I won't, and if it's ever Mitchell, well, which it won't be, now I knew what I should wear on our first date, my tool belt. "Hey, Mitchell," I said, "what was your science fair project when you were in 3rd grade?" Mitchell squinted and scratched his head. "3rd grade is ancient history." "Oh, I remember. Worms. I grew worms, measured how they made the soil better or something." "Was that a good project?" "Good? Are you kidding? It was awesome." "Margaret didn't come in my room for a whole month." "No, I meant, oh, never mind. I don't have a month to grow worms. I need an instant, just add water kind of project." "How come?" I explained the whole Wayland problem. Mitchell shook his head sadly when I was done. "Dude's going to pay," he said. "What do you mean?" I asked. "That kid gets up in front of everybody, says he can walk through a wall, and then doesn't do it?" He shuddered and made the baseball. "You're out" sign. Made the baseball. "You're out" sign. Dude's toast. Burnt toast. I hadn't thought about that. Margaret came into the hall just then. "What's the matter with you? Why are you looking so worried?" she asked me. Then she saw my tool belt. Tool belt. "Did you break your back? Is that a brace?" She leaned in for a closer look. "Oh, for goodness sakes," she muttered. "You are crazy." "I'm not crazy, Margaret," I said, following her down the hall to her room. "Now I can build things. Maybe I'll be a builder when I grow up." "That's not crazier than you being a makeup artist." Margaret turned around then with a dreamy expression on her face from the magic words, "You being a makeup artist." "I might not even have to wait until I grow up," she said. "When my father finds out how good I'm getting, he'll probably let me start working in his studio right away." "You're not going to California, Margaret," I reminded her, "because your mother's not having a baby. Besides, even if she did, maybe you'd like it. Lots of kids like having new babies in their families." Margaret looked at me like I was out of my mind. "If I were you, I would be moving out right now. I would be on the next plane to California with my makeup bag." "Hey," Margaret snapped her fingers, "I should practice now, on you." "No way," I said. "I'm never going to wear makeup." "You'll have to someday if you want people to like you. You have to wear makeup." That's not true. Yes, it is, especially if you're going to go around wearing a tool belt. There's no rule about that, I cried. My mother doesn't wear makeup and lots of people like her. Margaret shrugged. Your mother is pregnant, she reminded me, which I knew. Margaret looked into her mirror and flipped her hair. Her face melted into a dreamy smile again. And another thing, in California, I could have a new hairdo anytime I want. There are hairdoers who practically live at my father's commercial making studio. Suddenly, I couldn't stand to hear one more word about Margaret going to California. Okay, fine, I said. You can put makeup on me. This is called throwing someone off the track. So there she is, letting Margaret put makeup on her. And there's her whole big makeup kit. I guess Margaret was afraid I was going to change my mind because she shoved me into the seat at her dressing table and slapped a towel around my shoulders before I could say another word. She shut the door and rubbed her hands together. Then she pulled a big pink case out from her closet. Her cat, Mascara, went electric and ducked under the bed when he saw that case, so I figure she had been practicing on him too. Inside the case were dozens of brushes and sponges and tubes and little jars. Margaret examined them for a while and finally selected a glittery tube. We'll start with the base of Sun-Kissed Peach, she said. I'll apply it double thick to try to hide those freckles. One more time at the picture. I like my freckles, I said. Don't hide them. Too late. Margaret was already dabbing gunk on my face and rubbing it in and dabbing more gunk on and smearing it around some more. Every once in a while she'd step back and hold her thumb up and squint at me like a cartoon artist. Then she'd nod as if she was doing an excellent job. Every time I wanted to jump off the chair and go home, I remembered about Margaret leaving to go live in California. Margaret is my friend, even though she is kind of a bossy girl, and even though sometimes she can get kind of crazy about her rules, and even though sometimes I don't recognize her anymore, she is my friend. And I figured that maybe if my friend could paint makeup all over my face and pretend she was an artist, she wouldn't move away to California. Suddenly, Margaret screamed. She clapped her hand over my mouth to shush me, even though she was the one who'd screamed, and even though now she was going to have to wash that hand 100 times because she is a germ maniac. What's the matter? I hissed through her hand. Margaret had turned white and her eyes were popping out. My mother and Alan are back, she whispered. So what? I asked. She jumped out into the hall, spun around, and jumped back in again. Margaret takes all kinds of dance lessons. I could see that they were really paying off. We have to go to your apartment, she said. She tugged my arms out of my sweatshirt sleeves, pulled the sweatshirt up over my head, and then tied the sleeves over it. We can go out now, she told me. I can't see. I heard Margaret growl, and then she unzipped the zipper a little and tugged the opening over one of my eyes and shoved me out the door. She pushed me into the hall past the kitchen. Is that a clementine under there? I heard Alan say. Or maybe an apple or a plum or a banana? Margaret's mother laughed as if Alan had made a really funny joke, which he had not. Your mother told me the news today. She called out a new baby. How exciting. Nope, not exciting, I said through my sweatshirt. I mean, it wouldn't be exciting for your family to have another baby. You have just the right number of kids right now. I was going to say more, like that her kid might move away if she had another baby, but then Margaret gave me an extra hard push toward the front door. We are going down to Clementine's now, she called back to her mother, so bye. Down in my apartment, we got into my room without anyone seeing us. How come you want to keep it a secret about the makeup, Margaret? I asked. The makeup's not secret, Margaret said. It's just that my mother gets into a bad mood whenever something reminds her of Heather. She won't even say her name. She just calls her number 5. Margaret opened her case up again and pulled out some more paint. Turn your face up. It's time to do your eyes. Finally, Margaret said I was finished and let me look in the mirror. Let me tell you, it was a good thing I'd seen that horror movie with my Uncle Frank, because otherwise I would have fainted from being so scared. Arrgh! I yelled. I look like a brain-sucking alien vampire swamp creature. Is that what she looks like? Margaret stepped back and studied me. You kind of do, she admitted. Her shoulders got saggy. That's okay, Margaret. Maybe you could be that kind of makeup artist. Maybe you could make actors look scary. Margaret brightened up. Special effects. Right. Except, I sighed, except I don't want you to move to California. Margaret helped me wash the makeup off. Then we looked at our bare faces in the mirror for a while. I wouldn't really move, she said. I just like to think about it when things drive me crazy. Oh, I said, well, good.